heightened tension.
Mm-hmm.
The hero or the main protagonist is thrown consistently from a bad situation to a worse situation with losses that cannot be reversed.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think they did in this movie?
I mean, there was some losses. Like, it wasn't
Mhm,
like the hero is always succeeding. Like,
mhm.
I mean, after all, he does get hurt pretty badly.
Yeah.
um, so the reality is, I mean, there is some losses, but I wasn't. I mean, I don't want to say I was. I definitely wasn't at the edge of my seat though, always wondering if they're going to lose or die. I mean, there was definitely question if they're going to die, but I don't know. Like, because this is the one you had a 25-point scale on it. Like, this
Yeah.
is the one that had a
Yeah.
lot of points based on the rating. So I kind of gave it middle of the road again, only because there was question. It wasn't
Mhm.
completely clear at the end of the movie who was going to win and who was going to lose. So there was question, but as I said, I wasn't at this point of the movie. I wasn't hugely compelled by the major, and it was just like there was a part of me like if he had lost and if he had died then to Daisy, I would not have cared that much.
Sure.
Like it was one of those things. I was like, I didn't feel
Mhm.
like I just was curious to see how it played out, like who is going to come out on top. But I didn't really care who actually won.
I see what you're saying. I think so. This is the part where I disagree for sure.
Hmm.
The heightened tension, I think, is related to, in regards to the conflict, the main protagonist is consistently in this story thrown from a bad situation to a worse situation. And the
Hmm.
losses simply can't be reversed because they have people who are tentative allies getting knocked out of the roster like every 10 minutes. And so you're in a situation where their chance of surviving against an unknown enemy, whoever the mysterious ally of Daisy Domergue is eliminating opponents. And so he's it's rapidly getting worse. I think that the so I would say that of all points in the story, regardless of whether or not the character is compelling as a person, I think that the heightened tension that the story creates is some of the best that I've seen. I think that he's consistently making it, not only is this a bad situation, it's just gotten worse in a way that can't be reversed.
I could kind of see that. I don't know if I agree with that, only because I feel like characters in conflicts create tension, and so like the base of characters, like your opinions of the characters, more or less, do shape like whether you're actually care about the conflict or not. Because I mean, it's in a way, it's kind of like
Mhm.
you come across, like, say you come across a couple like angry and yelling at each other in the middle of the street. Like if they're complete strangers, you're not going to care like really about the conflict necessarily about them yelling. Like it'll
Yeah,
be a
but you're
disturbance.
watching.
Like it
You're
depends.
watching.
Like I mean,
What happens when there's an accident on the freeway? Everyone slows down.
I don't. I try to get past it, get going. I guess for me
uh,
personally, I see two strangers fighting. I try to get away from the situation. Like, okay, I'm not going to get involved because like I don't know what's
sure,
going
sure.
on. Like for me, if I don't know, and then if it's like two people I know, where it's like I'm more involved in the stakes, what's going on, where it's like I actually care about the people. Like there is a like, it's going to be more like intense. Like okay, what's going on? Like please stop fighting. Like figure this out. Like
Sure.
there is a difference between the two scenarios where it's like if you care about the people, it's going to matter a whole lot more.
Sure,
So,
sure. And I think that that's definitely, I don't disagree that this movie would be better if it had more, if it had characters developed in a way that you could actually root for them, right?
mm-hmm,
I would 100% agree with that point. What my argument is that the tension in the story
mm-hmm,
is very good, devoid of caring about the characters. And I think it's
mm-hmm,
similar to the, well, not exactly the same. And the reason for that is because the character grows in A
mm-hmm,
Christmas Carol, which is what I would say is comparable. But Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol is a despicable human being, and you
mm-hmm,
do not like them. But at the
mm-hmm,
same time, the conflict is pretty compelling, and you're still interested to see what happens because the way that the tension is heightened is
mm-hmm,
phenomenal. Same thing for okay, I'm gonna brand myself on this one, but in Death Note, when they have the main character Light, he is a despicable human being. But at the same time, the way that the tension is developed is one where you are compelled to keep watching because you want to see what happens. And the way that they
Mm.
heighten that tension is just off the charts. And
Mm.
so what I think is that this movie, you're right that
Okay.
it could be better, but I think
Mm.
in regards to this specific point, I don't take away any points because this is the one thing that Quentin Tarantino did excellently, and I think actually does excellently in most of his movies, is that he is very good at taking a person and putting them in an even worse situation and raising the stakes in a way that can't be reversed.
Mm. Well, I would argue, I mean, just briefly, like I don't want to keep this
Sure,
argument
sure, sure,
going,
sure.
but
Yeah, 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 that's
just
fine.
as far as that example, like Death Note, Light in that particular story, like at the very
Mhm.
beginning, like of that conflict, there is still a compelling reason to root for him, even though he is this despicable character, because he does at the beginning care about his family a little bit. He cares about his dad.
Mhm.
He cares a little bit about his mom and like the family members, people, some of the people around him. But like it changes as the story progresses. He becomes more despicable as it goes on.
Right.
But you're right. There is a lot of tension in that story because of like everything that happens and the conflict and whatnot. But still, like he isn't completely despicable at the beginning of the movie. Like you're given like some compelling reason to care about Light's character and what's going on, more or
Mhm.
less. Like he has some traits. Now he loses those traits kind of over the course of the story, but more or less, it's like you have some reason. Whereas with the
Sure.
major and some of the characters here, you're not given a whole lot of compelling reason